What? He did get a haircut. Look at this.
It's gone.
Why did you cut it?
I think my girlfriend was getting burned out on the whole Joe Dirt thing, and I was starting to get ready to shave a mustache, and she's like, "All right, you either can keep your haircut and get a mustache, or you can cut your mullet and keep your beard." So I was like, I'll cut the mullet, start fresh.
Wait, hold on. If you had gone through with the mustache idea, what would it have been?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was just gonna get the classic handlebar. Just nothing no handlebar, like down to straight, top lip, not too thick, not too thin, not like a Tom Selleck, but just like a nice clean, like Freddie Mercury style mustache.
All right. Well, you know what? It looks good. You're back to, normal society here. You can fit in with the rest of us. How are you feeling these days, man? I know you changed to welterweight. I'm assuming this has had a bit of a carryover effect in your life and your training to a degree already, even though your fight's not till late December.
Yeah, it's just nice not having to stress so much about my weight. It's like when I'm fighting at 55, as you've seen, I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'2". I've got a decent frame, and I used to have to stress about my weight before I'd even get into camp. And then from then, my camps are just miserable. I'm just always thinking about the weight and this and that. And it's like, even if I eat right and do the right things, I'm still a big guy. Like right now I'm 205 pounds. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Are you really?
I'm not a small guy. Yes, I'm 205 pounds, but I've been I've still been working with Bo Sandoval from the PI, working on my diet, and I've been bulking a lot the last 8 weeks. But still, even at that, I'd still be north of 193, 194 outside of camp. So I'm just glad that I'm just done fighting the weight. I'm ready to just focus more on being a fighter and being an athlete. It's like I tell people, I get tired of training 3 times a day just to be some scrawny dude. Like I'm ready to be a big athlete. You know what I mean? I want to be a big, fast, strong athlete. I know I have technical skills to go with it that I think I could have some success at welterweight. And my aspirations have stayed the same. I'm still going to work towards winning UFC world titles. So I'm very happy with my decision so far.
What do they have you doing at the PI that's different than what you would do at 155?
Well, not running as much right now, that's for sure. Right now I'm just focused on lifting weights and just making sure I'm eating the right things. Most bodies are made in the kitchen, not just in the gym. So just eating the right things, eating the right amounts, and just doing a lot of bulking right now.
Are you lifting weights?
And it's just, yes, lifting a lot of weights and lifting heavy, and that's, I can tell I probably gained about 6 pounds of muscle in the last couple like 2.5 months. So, I just feel good, man. It just to not have to stress about weight. And to some people, I sound like a psycho because I'm like, I'm only, a little more than 30 pounds over. They're like, that's still 30 pounds. I'm like, yeah, well, it beats 50. You know what I mean? It beats having to cut all that weight. And just, you see the trend nowadays. Look at Dustin Poirier. Look at Kelvin Gastelum. Look at Robert Whittaker. They're guys that are making that 15-pound jump, and they're killing it right now. And so I just think the trend now is just go to the weight class that's most suited for your body. I was still kind of part of that trend where it was see how low you can get as small as you can get, be the biggest guy in your weight class. And it started to burn me out.
Do you think you did any long-term damage from all those weight cuts?
Sometimes I do. For a long time I did. I think I kind of got out at the right time. I wasn't fighting. When I first got in the UFC, I wasn't lifting weights. And, I had a full-time job. And then once I got in the UFC, I started working on strength conditioning and stuff. And I wasn't fighting as much. So I wasn't making that huge weight cut as much. But I could definitely tell that, like, when I would get done with a weight cut, it would the residual damage would last for, like a month and a half. I'd just be super bloated, super lethargic. I just feel heavy. Like my body's not digesting anything. It just really wasn't a good feeling. I'm just excited to go. The biggest thing for me, Luke, is I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I love it. It's a blessing to be able to get up and compete and train and make fighting my job. But it started to lose its luster. You know what I mean? When all I'm doing is just killing myself. Like, I'm like, this used to be fun to me. And now it's like, this is fun again. Like, I don't have to stress about making this certain weight. I don't have to eat spinach and egg whites year round. Like, I can eat and I can be an athlete and I can lift weights, and I don't have to just focus on cutting weight all the time. I can focus on becoming a better fighter. That was my biggest my biggest focus is. I'm tired of focusing on my weight. I need to focus on being a better fighter. I have deficiencies I need to work on, and it's hard to do that, and it's hard to enjoy your training when you're just focused on hitting a certain number on the scale. You know what I mean?
All right, so you're going to be taking on Carlos Condit. It's going to be your first fight at welterweight. Why Carlos?
Well, that's just the fight that came to me. When I talked to my manager, Daniel Rubenstein and Sean, they're just like, you're not going to, just because you're going up to 170 doesn't mean you're going to get, there's not going to be any easy fights from the get-go. You're still going to have to fight tough guys. And I'm like, cool. I'm not looking for an easy way out. I'm looking to win a world championship. The goal stays the same. Nothing changes. And, when they offered Carlos Condit, those are the challenges I'm looking for. This is a guy that, could be my toughest test of my career. He's a former world champion. Those are the types of guys I want to fight. Anthony Pettis was my first shot at a former UFC champion. And that's a win I wanted to get really bad, to beat somebody that held the title, that had the thing that I'm striving for. That I need to get that win under my belt. And, I like the challenges that he presents. If you ever, I'm a big fight fan, so I just remember watching the primetime countdown shows of Carlos Condit leading up to the fight with GSP. And you listen to his mindset, that kill or be killed mentality. That's scary for a lot of people. And for me, I like that. I feel like a guy with Carlos's mindset and his skills is going to bring out the best in me. So I'm expecting the best Carlos Condit. I'm expecting a violent fight. I'm expecting to go out there and have to fight tooth and nail from bell to bell. And I just love the challenge it presents. And I think that I'm going to be able to show, I haven't got to show even half the fighter that I am, just because I've just been cutting too much weight. I'm really ready to just go out there and be who I really am as a fighter.
Do you think, I'm going to ask this question as fairly as I can, do you think he has been affected by the amount of damage he has taken?
That's hard to say. I think Carlos was smart, and we saw him after the Robbie Lawler fight kind of take a hiatus. You know what I mean? We haven't seen him as active as he has been in the past, and I think that maybe that's just being conscious of that. I know that he said something after the Robbie Lawler fight saying, that he got kind of smacked around a little bit and wants to give himself a rest. It's hard for me to say. I see in the pictures when people, tag me in the Instagram posts of him and I next to each other, it looks like he's got a pretty big head. Big bones can take more damage. So it's hard to say, but nonetheless, whether he's taking too much damage or not, I'm still expecting a really, really tough fight. He's a game competitor. He's no slouch. This is a guy that's, won world titles in multiple organizations, and he's game, and he's violent, and he's got a crazy mindset, and I'm just ready to go out there and scrap with him.
Why do you think they paired you two up?
Maybe it's because we're both on a skid. Maybe it's the matchup. Who knows? I'd like to think it's more the matchup. Carlos is, I've had 11 UFC fights, and I've had 5 performance of the night bonuses. So I'm not necessarily a boring fighter, and we all know Carlos is about as exciting as it gets. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's the skid. Who knows? But either way, I'm looking forward to it. I don't think this is any loser leaves town fight by any means. I've had a lot of success in the UFC. We've seen guys, Michael Johnson acquired 4 losses and they never cut him. He just went out there and got a win. So I'm not even thinking about that, but I'd like to think that this is a matchup thing. I think that this is a fun matchup for the fans. I think it's going to be on the main card for the pay-per-view. So it's like, I think that this is just, they're putting this fight together because what do they do on the end of the year? End of the year cards usually got a lot of exciting fights. And so I think me and Carlos could go out there and steal the show.
Oh, by the way, the post-fight bonuses, like some people do something special with them. What do you do with them? Do you just throw them in the bank account and it's all part of the same fund, or what?
No, I bought a house. So my dream was to always have a log house growing up. I'm from Washington, so it's
you certainly are.
I grew up just yeah. So I grew up, just being in love with log houses. And so, I stacked up enough money until I was able to buy a log house on some property out here in Washington. And I bought it off a bank auction. So I had to buy it kind of outright and remodel it and stuff. So I really put all my money into that. And now we call it the Chiesa Dojo. So I got a nice little spread with a log house, a pool, a big garage and stuff like that. But it's all log. So it's that's where I put all my money, is I put it into my dream home.
What is a reasonable and attainable goal for you in 2019 in terms of advancement at welterweight?
just get back in contention. You know what I mean? I got as high as rank being 7th at lightweight. And I truly believe, I really believe this deep down to my bones, that I was really only fighting to have my potential. You know what I mean? I really feel like that going up to 170, I'm going to really be able to show my skill set. I'm not going to be a small welterweight. I'm bigger than, I would say, probably 80% of the guys that are already welterweights right now. So my goal for 2019, win fights, get in the top 10, maybe shoot getting closer to the top 5 by the end of 2019. But my long-term goal is still the same, Luke. People may say I'm crazy. A lot of people say I can't pull it off. I don't give a fuck what they say. I know deep down I'm destined to be a world champion, and maybe it's to be obtained in the most prestigious division in the UFC at welterweight. So that is my long-term goal. But for now, 2019, and in the top 10.
So you think that's interesting? You think welterweight is more prestigious than lightweight?
In a sense, I do, because you got to look at the champions. You know what I mean? Matt Hughes, 9-time world champion. George St. Pierre. As of late, Tyron Woodley's really cemented his legacy as being one of the best welterweights. I think that we and then you could go back even further than that to like Pat Miletich, you know what I mean, or Carlos Newton, or those types of guys. So I think it's, welterweight, as we know, what lightweight had a hiatus in the UFC. They kind of got rid of the weight class for a while, but, it's had great guys as well. They had BJ Penn, they've had, as of now, Khabib Nurmagomedov, Conor McGregor, a lot of great, phenomenal fighters. But I feel like welterweight is one of the most prestigious ones. I feel like that's part of the reason why they won't start 165 and 175 is you can't just drop a weight class like 170 when it has as much history and as much of a legacy as it does.
You are, though, in favor of 165?
Oh, you saw my tweets. You saw my idea. You saw where my brain's at.
Yeah. By the way, it was a sensational idea, but for the folks who didn't, I was asking for a clarification.
So my idea, I think, for obvious reasons, we need more weight classes. You look at the event for MSG when it's hard to find a championship title fight when everyone's kind of tied up or there's injuries and stuff. And I think more titles means more opportunities to have more main events, more opportunities for a guy like, let's say, they start 165 and then you could do Conor and Nate Diaz for the 65-pound title, and Conor gets a shot at becoming a 3-time, 3-division champion. That's lucrative to me, and I think that right now is the perfect time to start a 165 and a 175, because you make the GSP Woodley deal done. Somehow you find a way to get those two to fight. Give them the offer that they can't refuse. I think it's more on GSP's end than it is on Tyron's. You have those guys fight for the last welterweight fight of all time to solidify who's the GOAT. I mean, George St. Pierre is not out of his prime. The guy just won the middleweight title from Michael Bisping less than a year ago. You know what I mean? So I think that he still has a lot of fight left in him. Make that the last welterweight fight for GOAT status, and then let's start something new. You know what I mean? Changes need to be made. I think there needs to be more divisions. And I'm not even for sure at this point if I would go 65. I might go 75. I might opt to go a little heavier than I would to go a little lighter. You know what I mean? But I think, take myself out of the equation and just thinking about the sport as a whole, I think it would do a lot of good for us to have more champions. More champions means more title fights, more opportunities to create more superstars. And that's what the UFC is fueled on. They're fueled on superstars. They're still fueled by the pay-per-view model. You need more champions. You need more superstars.
All right. Now, I know I'm going to be very careful with this. I know that there are certain things you probably cannot talk about. You have an ongoing lawsuit. And I'm not going to ask you about anything you can't talk about, but I am going to try to ask you about things maybe you can. Number one, the response from the community to the lawsuit. I'm wondering if you can speak about some of the negative pushback that you received.
Yeah, that's, I'm going to tread lightly with this.
Okay.
Obviously I can't really say a whole lot, but it just has not been good. You know what I mean? And it's, a lot of, even my girlfriend and my mom get messages and comments, and, they don't just, they're not a part of this. And it's kind of a shame when, my mom's a sensitive lady, you know what I mean? And I do my best to protect her and stuff. And when she tells me about some of the mean things that are getting sent her way, it's a shame. You know what I mean? Anybody can say whatever they want to me. This is about me. This isn't about my family. And, it hasn't been great.
So I can imagine the harassment has been substantial. Let me ask you about something else. It's semi-related. One of the reasons, correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, this is your house, by the way.
Yeah, this is, as you can see.
Well, you weren't kidding. That really is a log cabin.
Yeah. Yes,
That's
sir.
wild, man.
Oh, yeah.
One of the reasons why, as I understand it, you went to welterweight was for your health. The other one, though, was you didn't like the way you promoted the Pettis fight. That trying to trash talk, not that you minded trash talk per se, but it got to a degree that it was inauthentic. Let me ask you about the game generally, because as an MMA media guy, I've just sort of had to make peace with it. I have no desire to hear it. It doesn't do anything for me, but the market speaks so strongly that I have no other choice but to recognize its value. But I'm wondering, do you think it's toxic? Do you think it has, is it just for fight fodder, or has it gone too far?
I think there's a certain line. I think if it's authentic, let it happen. Like, for instance, me and Kevin, when we had our beef, that was real. You know what I mean? There was nothing scripted. There was nothing staged there. That wasn't forced. Dude piped off about my mom. I flipped out. That created authentic beef. The Pettis thing was just me forcing something. That was me. This goes back to when the fight got over and everything got done, and I'm sitting at home shell shocked. I've been gone from I was gone from Spokane for like 5 months. I spent 4 months down in camp, down in Las Vegas, and I'm talking to John Wood, and I was like, what do you think? What do you think about the fight? He's like, you know what I think, Mike? He's like, I think that you need to just go back to who you were before. He goes, when I met you, you were just a blue collar, humble guy who let your winning do the talking. And he's like, I think that you let trying to feed into this monster that the MMA, fan base has come to be consumed by, which they like this trash talk, they like the banter, they like the belittling, they like the, everything that goes with that. He's like, yeah, that's not you. He's like, why? So why are you doing it? And I was like, man, you're really right. Like, that really isn't who I am. I was this whole Pettis thing, like, deep down, I'm a fanboy. You know what I mean? This is a guy, I love this. I'm a fanboy first before I'm a fighter. And this is a guy that I was excited to get matched up against Anthony Pettis, a guy that I've been a fan of since before I started ever even training. You know what I mean? So why am I talking shit to the guy? That's just not who I am. And, I'm glad that I learned my lesson. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's why I was meant to lose. I got beat by a better guy that night, but you can't just look at it like that. You got to take more from it. And I think that was just like a reality check. Like, you know what? Even if, I might not get more followers on my Instagram, I'm just not going to be that guy that talks shit anymore. That's just not who I am. That's not how I was raised. That was not my upbringing. I'm a blue collar guy from Spokane, Washington. He was raised to just be respectful, be a sportsman, and just, speak with your performances. And I'm just glad that I'm back to my old ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but let me ask you about the game more generally. Is it good for MMA? Is it bad for MMA? And I know that's okay. Go ahead.
I think it's bad. You know what I mean? In the era when it was Chuck Liddell and Matt Hughes and those guys, MMA fans weren't the way they are now. They weren't mean. They weren't volatile. They weren't, they weren't calling people names, bantering their social media and stuff. And granted, the social media platforms weren't where they were now, but it's definitely like, as athletes, we have a fan base, some smaller than others, where they follow us and they emulate us, in a lot of different ways. And I think that when we're promoting fights by talking shit to each other, belittling each other and all that, the fans, they absorb that. And, and I think that that's what creates this toxic fan base. I hate hearing people say, MMA fans are the worst. And it's like, dang, like, I don't want to say that because I think MMA fans are great, but in the same sense, like, I don't ever see people that don't like LeBron James say volatile, mean ass shit about him. But for some reason, MMA fans just have like they throw a lot of shade to a lot of the athletes, and it can be pretty bad, especially, there's certain female fighters I'm good friends with, and they take it very personally, and I feel bad for them. I take what's said to me with a grain of salt, but some people, they don't tread lightly with it. They take it very personally.
Well, you know what? It sounds like you're turning over a new leaf. You're literally living in a log cabin in the woods, man. And you got a fresh haircut, a fresh weight class, and a fresh outlook. I'm looking forward to your next fight at UFC 232. And what you got in store for us at 2019, man?
2019, man, is just winning fights, getting back to my old ways, and I just want to end the contention. I got a lot of people to prove wrong, and you know what? I'm just excited to. I'm excited. I feel like this is like, after being in the sport for 10 years, I feel like I'm starting over. You know what I mean? So I'm just really excited for this fresh start, and I'm excited for what's to come, man.
Can't wait to see it. I'll be in Vegas for your fight. Thank you so much, Michael, and we'll talk soon.